Okay. So, all right. So, the question is, how do we deal with, where we're at right now? Today or tonight is Rosh Chodesh,
Mhm.
and we are approximately um 2.5 months away from Pesach,
Mm.
right? A month and a half away from Purim, right? And so now is the time to start thinking about Pesach. Now is the time to think about Purim, but just to think about this transition that we're about to go into like this like new reality. I mean, it seems like yesterday was Rosh Hashanah, right?
It
And
does.
so, right, and so, anyways, the point is just saying that, anyways, the point is just saying so like so that's where we're at, right? We're dealing with this idea of Pesach. We have to start building towards. We have to start preparing for it. We have to start, really like really thinking about like what it means, to go into this dynamic of Pesach this year. It's a new reality, and so what I want to do is start, in our weekly what we when we not weekly, but we're learning different. We started in Brachot, right, and we started in Brachot, and I was just kind of like I felt like Brachot was good, but I felt because we're not learning it every day, I feel like it's just you're coming back in and out of it, right? So I think this Pesachim, which is the Masecta which is the Masecta for Pesach, right? That would be the perfect thing because then we could come in and out, and it will be more of a gradual process than it will be anything else. All right. So, anyways, so it's okay, so we're going to do Masecta Pesachim, right? And the idea behind this Masecta is basically it's everything you need to know about Pesach, right? It has things inside of it, other areas or whatnot, but it starts off literally with the searching for the chametz, right? But we're not going to start there. We're going to start in the 10th parak, where most people in yeshiva start learning this parak like a few weeks before everyone leaves for Pesach, right? So, but we're going to read it because it starts to go into this idea of how the Seder works, the system of the Seder, and you can see the building blocks. And then you have a framework versus in just, the Haggadah. And the Haggadah, the Haggadah, takes you through the meal, but it doesn't necessarily show you how things were built out. And we know that the more we understand how things are built out, the easier it is. I mean, the more reward, the more connection we get. Okay, so we're starting at 10th parak,
You
um,
go around
chapter
from
99b. So
one
it
to
says, Matni Erev Pesachim, Shamuk Le, sorry, sorry. It's kind of got dark. Okay, so it says Lamincha lo yochal adam ad she tacha shach afilu ani. So it says like this. So he says, on the eve of Passover, adjacent to Mincha, a time, a Mincha time, a person may not eat until dark. So he's saying, so right before Pesach, as Pesach is coming in, right, and you daven Mincha, and it's after Shkia, and it's after Mincha, after you daven Mincha, until it becomes dark, you're not allowed to eat, right? So that he'll be able to eat the matzah the night with a heavy appetite. Even the poorest of Jews should not eat the meal on Passover night until he reclines on his left side, as free and wealthy people recline when they eat. And the distributors of the charity should not give a poor person less than 4 cups of wine for the festival meal of Passover night. And this halakha applies even if a person is one of the poorest members of a society, receives his food from the charity plate. Okay. Okay, Sonia. So why are they starting here? We'll see. I don't know. but anyway, so it says, so it starts off. The Mishnah starts off by saying that after a person davens mincha, before Pesach they shouldn't eat until nighttime, so they should have a appetite. He says even the poorest. He says even the poorest person on Passover night, should not eat on Passover night until he reclines on his left side. So during Passover, this idea is that we recline towards the left. And this idea of reclining to the left shows like you're chill, you're in a place of royalty, you're relaxed, and so you're the spirit of the idea is to be totally free. He says, and it is as free and wealthy people recline when they eat. He said the distributors of the charity should not give a poor person less than 4 cups for the festival of the night. So the night of Pesach, we drink 4 cups of wine, right? So he's saying that there's an obligation to make sure even the poorest person that's at your table or even in your community has grape juice. And you see this in very religious communities too, by the way. He says, and this halakha applies even if a person is one of the poorest members of society and receives his food from the charity plate. Gama my yira areva Pesachim. So he says, and the Gemara expresses a surprise at the Mishnah statement that one may not eat on Passover Eve from the time that he's adjacent to Mincha. Why? Why? Okay, so he says the Gemara expressed that a person is not able to eat, from the Mincha. So that the Gemara is now asking a question on that Mishnah, right? And he says, why discuss this halakha particularly with regards to the eve of Passover? So the Gemara wants to know, why does the Mishnah have to bring this statement about making mincha and not eating until night? Why is it important for us to know? You could have said a bunch of things. Why this? He says, even on Erev Shabbos and other festivals, it's also prohibited to eat in late afternoon. So before Shabbat. So you see how we always learning things as we go through the Gemara? He says even on Erev even the Erev other Yom Tovim, the festivals, or even Shabbat, after you do mincha, towards the afternoon, you shouldn't eat. You should have an appetite. He says for even on the Erev Shabbat, he says you also prohibit late afternoon, as it is taught in a brisa. So brisa is a Mishnah outside the Talmud. A person should not eat on the Erev Shabbat and the festivals from mincha afterwards, so that they will enter Shabbat. So when he will enter Shabbat, when he has a desire to eat and he will enjoy the Shabbat meal, this is the statement of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yossi says one may continue eating until dark. Amar Rabbi Huna, Rav Huna says the Mishnah is necessary only according to the opinion of Rabbi Yossi, who says that one may continue eating until dark. All right, so he says Rav Huna says the Mishnah is only necessary. So they're going into this is like, bro, this is like the thing. Like, I mean, we're reading it right now. But like seriously, like, and I'm saying this because I like not saying we have to do this now, but the proper way to learn the Gemara is to be able to go through all the different arguments that are being said and being clear. Because the goal of learning the Gemara is to be clear on the Peshat, exactly what is being said, right? Now, some people learn Sod, right? So Sod is all about what's not being said, right? When you learn the Kabbalah, it's about what's not being said. The level of drash, right? Drash, in certain ways, is a combination of both, right? Because drash is also based off of inferences, and it's also based off of what's right there, right? And in the rimis, right, is the idea of hints, right? Ideas, lessons, these type of things. And you have the Peshat. But the Gemara is about the Peshat. Is there deeper levels of learning the Gemara? Yes, like I learned that from Rabbi Pinchas. So a lot of the words that we use in the Gemara could also be used that are also in things like the Zohar and the teachings of the Ari and things like that. So if you apply them to what we're reading, and you said instead of learning the word this way, you can learn a whole nother thing, right? So the Gemara is in its own ways also endless, but the proper way to learn it. We're not doing that now, but I just want to say that, or to anybody else, it's just saying that like the idea to learn Gemara is to be clear in what the Gemara is saying, right? So right now the Gemara is saying Rav Huna is saying that the Mishnah is necessarily only according. So he's saying this Mishnah is only in the is by Rab Yossi. So the Mishnah that's brought right now is by Rab Yossi, who said one may continue eating until dark. According to this opinion, okay, so there was necessary. So let me see if we can get. Okay. Okay, so he says is the obligation to eat matzah is so that you do not eat anything before the biblical obligation to eat matzah, as it says. Okay, okay, fine. Okay, I just want to be clear. He says the Mishnah was the Mishnah was necessary according to the opinion of Rav Yossi, who says. Okay, so see, I didn't even read it correctly, right? And when I'm not reading in his language, so it says Amar Rav Huna Lash Surik, Allah Rebbe Yossi Daber. Okay, okay. So it says like that. Ve'o Holek Ad She Techa Shech. Whatever. So he says Shech Hashek. So he says Vechoshek is what he's saying. So he's saying like this. Rav Huna said. The Mishnah is necessarily only according to the opinion of Rav Yossi, who says that one may eat until it's dark. So he's saying that the Mishnah is important, or is important only as it relates to the opinion of Rav Yossi. And Rav Yossi says it's okay to eat up until you can continue eating up until dark. According to this opinion, the Mishnah is necessary to emphasize this applies only for Erev Shabbat and festivals, but on Erev Pesach, due to the obligation to eat matzah, Rabbi Yossi concedes that one must refrain from eating in the afternoon, that he may eat matzah with a good appetite. Okay, so this is how the Gemara works. Like, look, so this is what he's saying. So Rav Huna says, listen how you break this down. So if I was writing this down, and I was trying to keep track of what's going on, I would write down Rav Huna's position. Rav Huna is what? Rav Huna's position is it's necessary for the Mishnah to say this because there's an opinion by Rav Yossi who says that you can eat up until the dark, right? But then he says that, but Rav Yossi would agree with the Mishnah as it relates to Pesach, right? Because Pesach is because of the holiness of matzah and how important it is to eat the matzah, that Rav Yossi would also agree that you should not eat on the Erev of Pesach, as where he says during the festivals and through Shabbos you can eat up into the night, right? So that's to be clear on that part, right? Okay, so that's it. So he says Rav Papa. This is literally his name. We used to joke about this. They love it when you call me Big Papa, right? So Rav Papa Amar Afilu Tema Rebbe Yehuda. So he says, Rav Papa says, even if you say that the Mishnah is in accordance with the opinion of Rav Yehuda, there is still a difference between the eve of Shabbat and other festivals, as compared with the eve of Passover. There is there on the eve of Shabbat and on other festivals, it is only from Mincha times onward is prohibited to eat. Adjacent to the Mincha time, it is permitted. However, so Rav Papa is saying to say, however, on the Erev Pesach, he says even adjacent to Mikvah is also prohibited to eat. For this reason, the Mishnah is specifically to the Erev Passover. So let's read this again. So Rav Papa says, even if you say that the Mishnah is according to Rav Yehuda, right? So up here, okay, so the Mishnah up here that we're learning is he's saying it's by Rav Yehuda, right? He's saying it's Rav Yehuda, right? That's who he's saying the Mishnah is by Rav Yehuda, okay? And so he's saying that even if you say that the Mishnah in accordance is the opinion of Rav Yehuda, he said there's still a difference between the Erev Shabbat and the festivals as it compares to Passover. He says on Shabbat, on the Erev Shabbat and other festivals, it's only from Mincha time onward that is prohibited to eat. But adjacent to mikvah time, it is permitted. So I guess he's saying like, so he says adjacent to the mikvah time. So I guess he's saying that like, the way I'm understanding this. Oh, let me see if there's any. Okay, so the way I'm understanding is that he's saying here that I'm just trying to understand what he means by adjacent, right? Because he's saying that adjacent during the time of adjacent means like next to it. I guess so. So I guess they're saying during Pesach time, you could normally eat during the time of Mincha, right? During on Shabbat in the Yom Tovim, but on Mincha you can't eat adjacent, is what Rav Papa is saying, right? And he says for this reason, for this reason, the Mishnah is referring specifically to the eve of Passover, right? Right, so anyways, so he says even if you say that the Mishnah is accordance with the opinion of Rav Yehuda, there's still a difference between the eve of Shabbat and other festivals, as compared with the eve of Passover. There, there on the eve of Shabbat and other festivals, it is only from Mincha time onward that is prohibited to eat, but adjacent to Mincha time is permitted. However, on the eve of Passover, adjacent to Mincha time, it is also prohibited to eat. It said, and for this reason, the Mishnah is referring specifically to the eve of Passover. So again, he's bringing another perspective of this. So one is that there's an idea that you can eat up until the sun is going down on Erev Shabbat, right? You could eat all the way up to the sun setting Erev Shabbat, and you could do it the on the on the same thing by the holidays, right? Now that opinion is different than the Mishnah. That the Mishnah says specifically that. Let's go back to it. The Mishnah says specifically that you're not allowed. He says on Shabbat Eve. He says on Eve of Shabbat adjacent to Mincha time, a person may not eat until dark, right? So what he's saying over here is this idea of saying that why does it have to say the point of being adjacent, right? He said because during the other times there is an opinion that you also don't eat past mincha in for Shabbat in Yom Tov, but you could eat during a time that's adjacent to mincha. But however, on Pesach, you cannot eat at a time that's adjacent to mincha because it's there to arouse hunger, right? All right. So it says uvi erev Shabbat shamuk lamincha shere. So he says in the Gemara, he says the Gemara asks a question. On the eve of Shabbat, adjacent to Mincha time, is it permitted to eat? Oh, he says, okay, so on the eve, Erev Shabbat, adjacent to Mincha, is it provided to eat? What I just read, I thought it was okay to eat, according to Rav Papa, right? Based off of what Rob Papa just said up here, that's the impression I got. So they're asking that question, right? Okay. All right. So he says okay. So he says adjacent to Mincha time were permitted to eat. He said, but it wasn't the following. He said, but why? He says Uvi erev Shabbat semuk lemincha. So he says, and the Gemara asks on the eve of Shabbat, adjacent to Mincha time, it is permitted to eat. But it wasn't the following taught in the Brisa. He said the person may not eat on the Erev Shabbat and the festivals from the ninth hour on. So he will enter Shabbat when he is filled with desire to eat. It is the statement of Rav Yehuda. Rav Yossi said one may continue to eat until after dark. After dark. And according to the opinion of Rav Yehuda, even more on Shabbat, one may not eat before less from a time less than Mincha, and in which is the 9.5 hours. It is 9.5 hours of the day. Okay, so let's just stop here. I mean, we're going to talk a little bit. I mean, it wasn't like we did a lot of talking before. Okay, we did a lot of talking before, but you're cold out there.
Yeah, hey, it's cold, man. I'm wrapped up.
Oh man, bro. The thing is like this. On this thing with on this thing out here, it's one of the biggest concepts you learn, as a Jew, as a spiritual person, is that ultimately it's impossible to lose, right? The game is already like when we're talking about when we're learning by Rob Ashlag and he's saying like, he talks about this future reality that's already there, right? And the process of the soul's correction is just getting us there to that place. He said the correction of the soul is going to happen whether we do mitzvahs or not. The other way is just pain and suffering, right? So we're gonna get there regardless, right? Some people are gonna get there wounded, and some people are gonna get there, fresh, fresh and clean, right? So the point is just saying that you just gotta wait. You just gotta keep pushing and wait it out, right? Because you don't want, first of all, you don't want the wrong thing, right? And you only want the right thing, and so you just gotta keep pushing. But the key thing is the Torah, is learning the Torah, and more students, and more spreading more information, empowering more people, then everything's going to work itself out. You don't got to worry about nothing. Okay, this person falls off, that thing falls off, this thing. You have to just stay in your Torah, because at the end of the day, the things that I have experienced from other people, things I've told you about, right? Thank God those things came out now.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what if that thing came later, dog? And we really doing business. This happened. These things started 2 years ago. We were just starting out. We were just, we got Mind the Black Jew posters. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was trying to get that going. So the point is just saying that. The point is just saying that. It's all good. You know what I mean? We already won the game. We just have to just stay on the path. Stay with the halakha, and not get reactive, not let people do things to distract you, and handle business. Anyways, but tomorrow we'll be back on, bro. I'm just getting hit with, bro. I'm in it. Rah 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 rah.
Mhm.
But bro,
Yeah.
but this is bro. But the thing about it, this ain't nothing compared to what's about to happen,
No, for
right?
sure.
You know what I mean? So this is like, this is like, but it's like, but the beauty is people revealing themselves now versus later. That's the blessing.
Yeah.
That's the blessing, because in the future, you're in the 4 o'clock news. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So and they're waiting for that too. You know what I'm saying? So, anyways, all right. So we'll continue on tomorrow.